This is Freddie Kimler, the director of Muscle Shoals. We had another opening to this film, which I loved. It's in the bonus extra materials. And I tried to keep it in there, but we would have these little test screenings in town, and most people didn't like it. And I kept getting a lot of pushback from other people on the crew, producers, editors. Everyone agreed that they didn't like it. I tried to keep it in. We ended up taking it out. And it's the sort of abstract scene that's in the bonus materials. This then became the opening to the film.
You're going to hear some of the greatest voices that ever were.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
I love this. This was fun to shoot. So much cool stuff in the studio of all the gear, and I knew that shooting all this stuff would be just a lot of fun and could make a great opening sort of title sequence. So when we shot this, we kind of knew it would be for the title sequence of the film. Most of this stuff is in Fame Studios, and and some of this gear was from another studio down there called the Nut House. Some good folks, great studio down there called the Nut House. That piano there is in Fame Studios. That's the piano that Alicia played. That's the Hammond in Fame. I could watch shots like this all day, personally. It's fun when you shoot stuff like that too, because it's just laid back. There's no sound. It's just relaxed and it's fun. You're just looking for artistic ways to frame stuff, and it's fun to shoot.
We started to hear this sound coming out. There was
Keith, the statesman.
Kind of magnetic, I suppose, in a way, sound-wise. And then after a while...
What a great addition to the film. Such a way about him.
And you put 2 and 2 together, and that was when I said, if we get the chance, we got to go down there. You know.
Keith is amazing music historian, very knowledgeable about music and its history.
Still ask me, what is it about Muscle Shoals?
Love that shot.
It's just a little village on the Alabama.
Blue herons are such cool birds.
It's an enigma.
We had a guy down there donate his plane and his time. He took us up. Great guy, little seaplane.
Such an undescript little town. There was just something about that place, something that still to this day nobody can explain.
At different points in time on this planet, there are
We shot Jimmy, same day we interviewed Mick, both different rooms, but at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. Beautiful shot there. Beautiful shot by one of my camera guys, the Dream Chaser, Michael.
It's a unique thing. Rooms and record making like that, it doesn't happen very often. There's usually somebody like Rick Hall, who's like a total maniac.
We shot Keith at Electric Ladyland Studios in New York. Great studio, great place, very cool owner. Love this shot. All these shots in the movie are in the Muscle Shoals area.
This area here is where my roots are, and it's helped me develop into whatever I am today.
There's actually a piece of property that's still in Rick's family and had been in his family for a long time, where Rick's standing on the porch there.
No kids to play with. The floor in our house was dirt.
Those shots are magnificent
Made out of an oil drum.
by my director of photography, Tony Arndt.
We slept on straw beds made out of straw that we pulled up in the fields. We had no bathing
Love these shots.
facilities, no
Love the
toilets,
mandolin
nothing.
playing too by Rick.
and we just kind of grew up like animals. That made me a little bitter, somewhat driven.
That's out on Rick's family's property
I
as
wanted to be
well.
special. I wanted
Not
to
his
be
ranch, but where
somebody.
he has family that lives. It's been in the family a long time. This was on the first shoot down there.
Can you slip away? Slip away. Slip away. Yeah. Oh, I need you so.
Rick, that handsome devil.
The first record I cut in this studio was a record called Steal Away by Jimmy Hughes, brand new building, and I was hoping it had the magic. I didn't know. So I
This
put my
archival is
hand in,
from 16 millimeter from a Swedish documentary
sat down,
crew that had gone down there and had filmed this. And it was living in Sweden on a 16 millimeter print. We got a film transfer done.
laugh, crackle in my voice, rolling. When they kicked off Steal Away, I sat behind the console and wept. I just had huge chill bumps come up on my arms, and the hair on my back of my neck actually stood up. And of course,
Rick is in the office of his studio there above Fame.
Muscle Shoals Sound.
Very cool room. It looks pretty much the same as it did back in the day. Almost identical.
Somehow, not tomorrow, right now. I know it's late,
As you can see, I'm a big fan of the blue heron.
I can't wait. So come on and steal away.
I've heard entertainers and producers tell me that we got some kind of sound here that they can't get anywhere.
Percy is so
They
great.
have to come here.
He has so many great things to say.
Deep down into your stomach, coming up out of your gut, coming up out of your heart. That's that muscle.
If you don't know Candy's music, you should go out and get it. She's amazing.
To myself, I know it's late. I can't wait. Come on.
We just drive around and look for shots to get.
That sound
It's fun.
made it through to even
Beautiful day,
Ireland,
cruising around looking for
Britain,
shots.
and
It's as good as
we
it gets
felt
right
the
there.
blood in that. We felt the sort of pulse of it, and we wanted something.
That was in London. Bono.
You got to understand that Muscle Shoals had its own kind of R&B, different from Memphis, different from Detroit, different from New York, different from LA. How did it happen in this little town of 8,000 people? This start this whole style of music.
Clayton Ivey, a piano player from the Rick's third rhythm
Those things
section.
come out of the river. You know, even in Liverpool, you know, the Mersey sound. And then, of course, Mississippi. And here you have the
Love that
Tennessee.
shot.
It's like the songs come out of the mud.
So if you ever go down there, you should go check out this place. This is Tom Hendricks' place where he built this wall. It's incredible. It's right off the Natchez Trace, right outside of Muscle Shoals. And people visit it from all over the world. I think every time we went out there, there was somebody there visiting, usually more than one person.
You're at a place called Ishite.
It's incredible. I mean, the wall may look massive in here, but it's a lot bigger than we were even able to capture because it just goes on and on and on. He did it all by
I've
hand.
been working on it for 32 years. There's over 8 million
It's a
pounds
lot
of
more
stone.
massive than we capture.
It's a memorial to my great-great-grandmother. She was an American.
Those
Indian.
stones right there, he
People
said,
were Iuchi.
elders came from his tribe and they
Grandmother's people called
asked
it
him to go
the
inside and they put
Tennessee
in
today.
those
They call it Nunasay, the
those
river
stones
that
there that
sings.
look like their faces in them. When he
People
came
lived
back
on the
out,
river sang songs
they
from
had
it
put
for
those in the wall in this one section.
In the year 1839, my great-great-grandmother was removed from right here in Muscle Shoals. She was taken to the Indian Nations, what is now present-day Muskogee, Oklahoma. When grandmother got out there to Oklahoma, she said there were
Right
no
in
songs.
Tuscumbia, which is one of the 4 towns that makes up the Muscle Shoals area, was a spot along the Trail of Tears where they would bring a bunch of Native Americans and they would transfer them there. They would be held there in pens basically, and they would be transferred from either for different mode of transportation. I don't know. I think they got on a train there possibly, but it was sort of a transfer spot right there in Tuscumbia.
The river that sings.
This story is incredible of his grandmother. She missed her home so much.
You can still hear her songs. I know. I hear her songs nearly every day.
Took her 5 years to walk home, and if she'd been caught, it would have been a hanging offense for a Native American to leave the reservation.
Billy Sherrill and I, who were writing partners, got a phone call from a guy that wanted to start a publishing company with us and had the sum of $500 to spend on us, which we thought was a gold mine. So Tom Stafford was a dream come true. We went in business and we had a little bitty studio.
Tom Stafford was
father's drugstore.
a key figure for a lot of these musicians down there when they were getting started out. And he seemed like a fascinating guy. I always thought he looked a lot like Neil Cassidy, and they had some sort of kindredness to them.
And said that they wanted to have fun while they were having hit records, and that I was just too adamant and too strong-willed and too pushy, so they decided to let me go. So I obviously went home, began to lick my wounds, and was very bitter. During this time,
This has always been one of my favorite scenes in the film.
in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and I married
We
my
cut
first
this
wife.
with my associate editor, Josh Miner. We cut this scene early on, and we had many variations of this scene, and I always loved this scene. I think it's one of my favorite scenes in the
I
film.
met a car who was traveling very fast. I swerved to go around that car. I hit some loose gravels on the side of the road and went into a tailspin. The car turned over end a couple of 3 times and landed on its top, and didn't know if she was out or in, but couldn't find her in the car. It was total darkness.
I bumped the camera right here. You notice. We did another take, but I just like this take better, so we'll live with the bump.
The car somewhere. And I thought, of course, it's going to be my death because the car is going to catch fire and I can't get out.
We
I got out of the car.
we went out to where this accident happened to film these shots coming up of Rick by the highway. It's actually where the accident occurred, and it's where this huge tornado actually hit down during the film later on, and it was part of that national news story. Town Phil Campbell, that was in the national news, where a bunch of people had passed away, and the tornado literally hit down right here where we were filming. We went back out there afterwards. Rick showed me, and the whole place was completely just annihilated. This is on Rick's ranch here.
It was hard times, and all I had to cling to.
Love that shot.
I slept in my car. I ate in my car, and I wrote songs in my car. But I continued playing music, and it was the only love I had at that time. And
Well, was Rick's grandson Jackson standing on the fence in the background.
Local band in Hamilton. From that time on, for 5 years, I wrote songs, played music, and chased the women.
Somebody long midnight. I need to call my old time.
I could have stayed on that shot for another 30 seconds, but we ran out of shot there, but I could stare at that shot for a while.
I decided to come back to Muscle Shoals, but this time I came back with a vengeance. I came back with a determination that I was going to kick some ass and take some names.
And that's what he did.
Make it in the music business. And so I've set up shop in a little candy and tobacco warehouse. I closed the doors.
So a lot of this
I didn't talk to girls. I didn't make
framing and stuff on the stills, the motion design was done by Allison Moore.
I was totally obsessed with the business. And so shortly after that, I ran into Arthur Alexander.
She did a
who was
great
local
job.
bellhop at the Sheffield Hotel. And he
She was
played the
in
song,
London. She'd
"So
send
What Do You
me
Think?" And I said,
clips, and we'd communicate back and forth and send them back. And
"What are we gonna do about it?" And I said, "We're gonna cut it."
it was interesting workflow to work with someone across the Atlantic, but it was smooth and worked out well.
My band in. Norbert Putnam, David Briggs, Jerry Carrigan, Peanut Montgomery, and Terry Thompson were the first rhythm section to be in the studio and to cut a hit record.
Now you got to realize Rick Hall.
That's in Fame and Studio B. There's Studio A and Studio B. This is in Fame Studio B.
He had the vision for the recording. Rick made records with a group of teenage kids, okay, that became hit records, world-class records.
You asked me to give up the hand of the
Arthur Alexander, Rick's first big hit. He was a local bellhop at the hotel in Sheffield, which is one of the 4 towns that makes up Muscle Shoals.
The very first record, You Better Move On by Arthur Alexander, that I produced, or had anything to do with, was a hit. Not the second or third, but the first session we cut was a hit record.
I know Rick was determined to cut that hit, and he did it. But if he hadn't, I'm of the opinion that none of this Muscle Shoals movement would have ever happened.
That's up to her. Yes, and the Lord above. You better move on.
That's Jerry Carrigan from Rick's first rhythm section. Those guys all had illustrious careers in music. Most of them moved to Nashville.
You better move on. It was the only thing we did like that. I mean, the girls really adored this song. It was a big hit for us in England.
So when Mick walked into the room we filmed him in, which was this suite at the Beverly Wilshire, he walks in there and he said, "I lived in here for a year and a half." And we were like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I lived in this suite for about a year and a half." Total coincidence, so that was pretty wild.
It was a love of Arthur Alexander. Yeah. At that time, we had no idea where this was recorded. But it's interesting to know. One of the first things that we cut was a Muscle Shoals production.
Yeah, so when Muscle Shoals started making his impact in the world, no one knew where it was coming from. They just liked the sound and music coming out of there, so that's kind of interesting.
In 1964, their first American concert. And of course, a year later, in '65, we all go to Nashville.
These guys went on to become great pickers and producers and learn from experience here at Fame. Man, we can do it.
When they left, there was nobody else. We were the only game in town for him to get.
They took the ball that we started rolling, and they rolled it and made it bigger.
Individually, I never really thought we were great players.
So Roger's sitting out inside of their second studio. They moved to 3614 Jackson High when they left Rick, the Swampers did. And then later on, they moved to a different building, a new studio, and called Cypress Moon Studios, and it was right on the river, and that's the dock right outside the studio where we filmed Roger there. Here's the Queen. Bobby Womack.
The grooves that we set up came from rhythm and blues music. I remember when Paul Simon called Stax Records, talked to Al Bell, and said, "Hey man, I want those same black players that played on I'll Take You There." He said, "That can happen, but these guys are mighty."
Love that picture of Al Bell. So that's the first building the Swampers moved into when they started their own thing after they left Fame. Muscle Shoals Sound on 3614 Jackson Highway. The building's still there. It has a historical landmark designation, and the Swampers and a bunch of other folks down there just bought the building back to hopefully preserve it forever.
David Hood, bass player. Jimmy Johnson, guitar.
Roger Hawkins, drums.
Barry Beckett, keyboard player.
Barry had passed a couple years before we started filming the film.
A strong rhythm section made the difference when you went to the studio every day with the same pickers and the same players, and they became a team, and it was hard to beat that. We began to bring in songwriters and musicians, anybody that wanted to be in the music business.
I could have listened to Let This Roll for... If we didn't have such a long film, I could have listened to Spooner play here for 5 minutes. Love this scene, love what he plays. So painful to cut things down when you have such a massive story to tell, because so many gems like this I could just let roll.
I guess during high school I started going over to Fame Studio. That was like a melting pot for songwriters, musicians. I was, as a teenager, really impressed with all that.
I came up here and I'm just a kid, really. And all of these people...
Dan Penn and Spooner's stuff, you should go out and get everything they wrote and recorded. Those guys are so prolific. It's so many great songs. And that Wurlitzer, God, I love the sound of a Wurlitzer. I really want to get one. I came to love the Wurlitzer.
Learn how to write songs and learn how to play music.
Such a cool instrument. The speakers built into the back of that Wurlitzer.
Most of these guys around here, including myself, are...
Those are actually two different Wurlitzers. That one is at Fame right there, and that other Wurlitzer was at a studio across town, Jimmy Nutt Studio, called the Nut House.
These are just local people.
I'm from a small town called Leeton, right outside of Muscle Shoals.
Leeton's about 10 miles outside of Muscle Shoals. Beautiful drive out to Leeton.
The older people in the field that always say that one day my voice would be heard all over the world, but I never thought that would happen.
Percy worked at the local hospital.
I was an orderly working with the sick people. I'd sing a song for them, you know, and they go to sleep. I got such a big kick out of that, you know, and I could see my patient laying up there smiling, you know, and feeling better. So one day I was invited to sing at the Elks Club here in Sheffield. And just so happened Quinn Ivy was a disc jockey at WLAY, and he heard me sing.
Quinn looks like Elvis Presley.
He loved the melody in the feel. He said, Percy Sledge, have you ever been interested in cutting a record?
I remember the day I got the call, will you come do keyboards on this recording session? It'll be the first recording this artist has ever done.
When I came into the studio, I was shaking like a leaf. I was scared.
What a timeless track. This track still holds up. Most of these songs all still hold up. That's the thing about them, they're timeless.
Every time that he sang the song, he had different levels for different parts of the song. And everything had to be in your wrist, bringing the level up and down.
All I had was a voice. I didn't know anything about no singing, you know.
Somehow, I got one down, and Percy was on time with me with a great vocal.
I want some of those pants. They look like Lily Pulitzer.
So all this was just so new to me, and these guys made me feel like, hey, man, so you can do it, you got it, you know. I used to call them my family, Donna Thatcher, all of them.
My first
I had no idea Donna Jean had sung on that track.
Percy Sledge, and you never
I was familiar with Donna Jean because I was a Grateful Dead fan.
Quinn called me one Sunday afternoon and said, do you know of a place we can get a deal? And I said, I think so. And I picked up the phone and called Jerry Wexler in New York.
Jerry Wexler was probably the biggest.
Rick always the stylish one. Love those collar and handcuffs.
It was
a man named Rick Hall who had a studio in Muscle Shoals.
I said, you told me if I heard something I thought was a big hit, to call you, and I'm calling you.
And I heard some music coming from there, and it was fabulous. We pressed and distributed the record, and that was a big hit.
That began a great relationship between Jerry Wexler, Atlantic Records, and Rick Hall. And of course,
I wish that vinyl would come back in a big way.
Records in the business.
The dynamic range of vinyl is so much greater than digital music.
Same melody that I sang when I'm in the field. I just wails out in the woods and let the echo come back to me.
Hi, George C. Wallace.
During that era of recording basically all black acts,
There's a
you gotta
very
remember that
well-known
George Wallace
photograph.
was standing in the schoolhouse door at the University of Alabama, making sure that no black people came to school there.
And I say segregation now, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever.
This was a politics that could not see past the color of your skin.
It's the kind of thing that I know people of this era, they wouldn't want to believe what it used to be. I think of all the times when we used to take a break from the studio to go out and eat.
I was somewhat frightened from time to time when we'd go and buy dinner for half a dozen black people.
That's where you saw, like, what are y'all doing sitting there? Even
I always thought this shot had an eeriness to it that was very appropriate.
It dawned on people that this is the new era.
I love this score here. This is Ray Smith on this score, and I just love it. He did a great job, and I think this score is just perfect for the mood.
When I was a young boy, it was always, if I met a white boy, I had to say, this is Mr. Robert.
I call Clarence Obi-Wan.
Mr. Jimmy. But in the studio, we got away from that. It was Jimmy, it was Robert, it was Clarence, you know. You just worked together. You never thought about who was white and who was black. You thought about the common thing, and it was the music.
We were colorblind. There was never any situation came up in the studio here ever about you're black and I'm white.
I love this little
They didn't believe the black and white people
ending to the arc of this little sequence. Richard Lowe came out to Colorado where we cut the film. He was the primary editor, and he did just a fabulous job.
At the time, this was revolutionary stuff.
We had fun. It was fun being out in Colorado cutting this film. Richard, Josh, and I would hole up in a little, very tiny office to cut this film,
Music together.
which is where I am now doing the voiceover.
Ways to help people understand that we all were just humans.
My start went sky high with Wexler after the Percy Sledge single went #1 worldwide. And he said, Rick, I've had a little bit of a dispute with Jim Stewart at Stax, and he don't want me to cut any more records.
I love this office. I want an office like that.
For me at Memphis.
Jim Stewart's office rocks.
So I got the idea of calling Rick Hall and say, hey, can I bring Wilson Pickett down here and make some records with you guys?
With you guys.
Which we did.
I gets off the plane, Southern Airlines, and here this long, tall...
This sequence is always a crowd pleaser when I'm sitting in with in on a screening somewhere.
Pickett picked him up at the airport. He looked like, to me, a dangerous man.
He walked up like he'd known me for 500 years. Hey, Wilson, come on, we're gonna cut some fucking records.
Richard did a great job cutting this scene.
Come on, I said, wait, I'm nervous, you know what I mean? Now, what does white man know about producing a Wilson Pickett?
You can really see how Wilson and Rick must have got along. There's just something very kindred about them. It's just not hard for me to imagine that those two were two peas in a pod.
Went through the cotton patch, people still picking cotton. I said, is that
I got to know Wilson's daughter. She's great.
That wasn't they still picking cotton down there. You could see a studio from the cotton patch.
I met her when she stood up in a screening in D.C. and asked a question and introduced herself. So it was a really fun surprise for me. I had no idea she was going to be there.
You know what I mean?
On the session, if he didn't like what was going on and didn't like the attitude, he's just liable to whoop the drummer. Say, come outside, I'm gonna beat your ass.
I was nervous. I was sitting behind the drums, and I was getting things together like drummers do and checking things.
Our band was super nervous the first time we worked for Jerry Wexler. We had this feeling that if we couldn't play what he asked us to play, we'd probably be fired on the spot.
I was apprehensive, very leery, because it was entirely different from what we had been doing in New York, which was recording with written arrangements, arrangers, and studio players who read the charts.
We would get in the studio and we would add a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then we'd go to lunch, come back, and we didn't like that, take it away, didn't do, you know, all that kind of stuff. We would sit there and we'd make that record together. Those guys would sit there in that studio and just find the groove, you know? And I'd be right there with them singing along, and we'd all...
Thank God many of these stills photographs were preserved by Fame. And the guys down there, David had a bunch, Jimmy Johnson. Thank God they had all those stills, because they make up a lot of the stills in the movie.
He was a funky drummer, but he wasn't wearing himself out all over the place, you know? He was just there. We was cooking away on the thing, and Wexler was in the control room. He said, "Hey, baby, it's working. Hey, baby, it's funky."
Wilson's as good a storyteller as Rick.
Rick Hall had a rhythm section.
Wilson's got a lot of charisma.
Exceptional players. This was very inspirational to me.
Jerry came out at the end of the first day. We had just cut Land of 1,000 Dances. And he walks out in front of Roger, and Roger's ears had never heard anything like this.
He said, "Roger." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Roger, you're a great drummer." And all of a sudden, I just kind of relaxed and became a great drummer, just like he said I was.
After my first night in that studio with them, I was convinced that that could be a recording home for me.
I have a theory, but I feel like it's a pretty good theory, that this song is the most covered song in the world. If you think about how many bands, bar bands, cover this song, I think it's the most covered song in the world. I have no statistical information to back that up, though.
Everything was just roses with me, with Jerry Wexler.
It's hard to go to a wedding or a bar and not hear Mustang Sally.
There's just something that leaps out of a record. I call it the sonority of the record. It's the way the sound of the record impacts on the ear instantly. And to me, that's the magic ingredient in a phonograph record.
I love that concept. I totally agree with that, and I think it's the same for films, too.
The Rolling Stones had it, the Beatles had it, and
I can watch, 10 minutes of a film, and I know whether, I like this film and this filmmaking or I not. And for music, it's even more instant.
I grew up north of Florence.
We had to hike in about a mile to that spot right there. Beautiful spot, though, hiking in there.
The only way to get to Florence at that time, we had
Makes
no
me miss
car.
Muscle Shoals,
My
seeing
mom and
these
I would
shots.
walk
Makes me miss
dirt road
spring,
down to
summer,
the
and Muscle
highway
Shoals.
to catch a bus to go into Florence, which is 5 miles away.
I was born in Sheffield, Alabama, and graduated from Sheffield High School.
That's down on David's dock
While in
outside
high
of his
school,
house.
I would see Hollis Dixon in the keynotes, the first rock and roll band around here, and I just fell in love with that. I thought, I've got to learn how to do that.
You got Roger Hawkins in a group called the Del Rays. Jimmy Johnson was playing guitar. I remember hearing the Del Rays when I was going to the University of Alabama. And I remember I could not get into the fraternity house. So I had to stay outside and listen to it. I mean, the ground was rumbling. Okay, it was such a great band.
We met each other when we started playing at the Tuscumbia National Guard Armory at the Square Dance. Half the night was rock and roll, and then after that it was all square dance.
I always thought that would be in the reverse order. I'd always picture the square dance coming and then the rock and roll. So it always surprised me.
After Wilson Pickett, I became
That's out on Rick's
Jerry's
ranch.
right-hand man. And so he said, I'm thinking about signing a new act. Her name is Aretha Franklin. She's on CBS Records, and it's not happening. They can't sell records on her.
I'm only one step ahead of heartbreak.
I'd heard her real smooth records on Columbia. You couldn't really get your teeth into them.
A little bit of a difference there in her sound, I'd say.
These lush arrangements that she was doing at CBS, which weren't successful either. No one knew what to do with it. She had this great voice, but lots of people had a great voice.
I've still got to find out who and what I really am. I don't know yet. I'm trying to find the answer.
I wasn't exactly hoping that she wouldn't have any hits on Columbia Records. But the way it went, they dropped her after 5 years. A week later, we were in my office in New York. We signed her up.
He said, you know, I've got this great little studio down in Muscle Shoals, and these cats are really greasy. You're gonna love it.
She walks in, right over there. And she's got this aura around her, pretty thick. I mean, the girl was special. I remember watching the guys, being good Southern boys, they'd carry on with anything except looking or dealing with her. So she walked right over to the piano. She sat there a moment, and then she just hit this unknown chord, I would say. Didn't anybody have to say we're about to cut?
We did what we called head sessions at that time, and there was no real music written for it. The musicians would just listen to what it was I was doing, and then they would decide what they were going to do around that.
I think we heard a little demo of this song, Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You.
To me, it sounded pretty much like junk. I'm thinking, that's a song they're gonna cut? There was discussions, Jerry Wexler and Rick.
There was a little confusion and there was a little turmoil. Everybody was a little uptight.
We can't find a groove, a beat, a place to start.
They were just had all these gears working, but finally it just came to a and suddenly it was really quiet. They had a song, they had an artist, but nobody knew what to do. Not even all these geniuses. But out of that quietness came Spooner with. And I said, hey, Spooner's got it. That's it. Aretha jumped right on it.
There's Spooner up above. Love that photo. You can see Jimmy behind her there.
It was cut within 15 to 20 minutes. You didn't have to ask, what do you think? Everybody knew it was a hit.
I think everything came together for Aretha in Muscle Shoals.
They got Aretha to record a much more funky kind of style in Muscle Shoals. It was really the essence of her.
Such a great track of Aretha's.
coming to Muscle Shoals was the turning point. That's where I recorded I Never Loved a Man, which became my first.
We filmed Aretha in New York
record.
City.
So absolutely, it was a milestone and the.
She couldn't have been more pleasant. She hung out for a while before we shot and just sat and had a bite to eat, and then she hung out afterwards and just watched what we'd filmed, and she was in no rush and was very friendly and just great to chat with. I remember she was going to go down to Barney's and take a look at the windows. I think Lady Gaga had done the windows, and she was going to go check that out.
The ones that give you the goosebumps, the ones that you like, I wish I sang a record like that.
I think that's what she said, Lady Gaga had done that.
We had a whole week planned to cut tracks a whole week. But at the end of the session, we found out that there was a problem.
Ruh-roh.
It was a ruckus. One of the horn players and Aretha's then husband, Ted White, got into it.
This new horn player started saying things like, Aretha, baby. And it was just enough that Ted White got offended.
They'd been drinking from the same jug, and now this camaraderie and great palship turned into some kind of alcoholic hostility.
Ted comes into the control room with Wexler and I and says, I want the trumpet player fired. I looked at Wexler and said, what do you think? He said, go fire him. So I went and fired him.
That later caused a big argument and caused the session to end.
I remember the first time we'd bring up this story to the guys, you could just see a little fear in everyone's eyes that we were bringing up this story to ask about it.
We'll work this thing out. He said, no, I don't want you to go. And I said, yeah, well, I'll
Everyone was well aware of the story I was asking about, or Steve was asking about. Steve Badger, by the way, was my brother who we made this film together. He's
I'd had a couple more drinks.
his heart and soul's in this film.
Banged on Ted and Aretha's door, and Ted came to the door, and he started pointing his finger in my face and so forth. And we fought.
So that was fun. We were just shooting this at a motel there in Florence, and we were just kind of just cruising around late at night, just filming the hotel.
And I decided that I was leaving. I'd never been to Muscle Shoals before or away from home, really, by myself. And so I just said, I'm going to the airport. And when I got to the airport, I saw him with the bell captain. I said, whoa, this son of a gun was going to leave me down here. Unbelievable.
They left town the next day, early. So Wexler came and said to me, I will never set foot in this studio as long as I live again. I will bury you. And I said, you can't bury me. He said, why can't I? I said, because you're too old.
I think Rick is a phenomenal storyteller. He tells a story so well.
So the next day I showed up.
He's really feeling, he's almost like goes back in time, he's almost feeling whatever he's telling you.
It's over, we've had it.
You can really sense the emotion.
But a few days later, Jerry Wexler calls and asks if we can go to New York and finish the album there.
He didn't have to ask us twice.
That's at Jimmy Johnson's studio in Muscle Shoals.
On that album was R-E-S-P-E-C-T, Respect.
What you want, baby, I got.
To be a part of something like that is unbelievable. It was milestone stuff.
The Swampers went on and recorded with Aretha on many hit records.
Sweet, Sweet Baby, Natural Woman, Think, The House That Jack Built, Call Me, Do Right Woman, Do Right Man, Chain of Fools, and so many, many others.
Of course, it worked out incredibly. And it's been one of the anomalies, I think, of the era that Aretha's greatest work came with a studio full of Caucasian musicians. How do you figure it? This is the Queen of Soul.
Jerry Wexler passed after we had the idea to make the movie, but before we had actually shot anything. I remember I was getting on a plane back from meetings about the movie, and I opened up the Wall Street Journal, and there was the story that Jerry Wexler had passed. He and David Hood were very close. He was close with all the guys, but I know that he was some sort of minister and married David and his wife Judy.
So after my dispute with Wexler, he took Aretha away. And on my part, I felt like I really screwed up.
I love the wild track there, the cars going
I went to
by.
Chicago, and I spoke to Leonard Chess, because he said, I wonder what I got to do to get you to do some sides for Chess Records. I said, who do you want me to do? He said, I'd like you to do Etta.
Etta is another one who passed away while we were filming the film. Losing so many of these greats.
Rick Hall, so this is Fame Recording Studios, and I'm in Alabama, and now this is going to be, the real thing.
That's why it's nice to document as much as you can.
All that kind of stuff.
Etta James is probably one of my favorite chicks of all time. Leonard said, Rick, I built my company.
I love the photo treatments here that Allison Moore did.
As good as she can sing, if you'll kick her ass and wind her up, says she can rattle the shingles on this studio.
You thought you hadn't found a good girl, one to love you and give you the world.
Rick Hall was actually the first white man that I had seen that had that kind of soul, that was an engineer and was soulful,
We recorded a Clarence Carter song. With Clarence, it was Tell Daddy, but with Etta, it was Tell Mama.
She didn't want to do the song because I think she had a problem with somebody suggesting to her that she was going to take care of some man.
I would be so hard-headed and, just don't tell me nothing,
She had a temper like a lion. I said, if you'll do it for an hour, if it's not happening, we'll garbage it. We'll throw it in the garbage.
Seems like the temper thing seems to be a common denominator among some of these characters. Passion, just because they're passionate about their art.
And of course, the record was to become a big hit on her.
Everybody said that song raised her from the grave, and brought her back to prominence. Each time a person went to Muscle Shoals, they came out of there with a hit record.
Obi-Wan
They had to
Kenobi.
know that there was something magic in Muscle Shoals.
Love that shot. Love this shot. These shots.
The spirit of Muscle Shoals permeates not only the city itself physically, but I think the people who...
That's the Galilee Baptist Choir from the Galilee Baptist Church in Leiden, where Percy's from, Jimmy Hughes is from. I love this. I think this looks so legit, and I love it because the set was free, the piano was free, it's natural lighting. It's a local high school music teacher playing W.C. Handy. The props we all pulled together that day. I love that about guerrilla documentary filmmaking, just pulling all that together. That's a piano shop in Muscle Shoals or Florence. All this, Muscle Shoals is a four towns sort of make it the Muscle Shoals area, but that's a piano shop there, and we just cleared out a bunch of pianos out of this one room, and it just worked great. I love that. Love how that came out.
Sam Phillips was also from the Muscle Shoals area, and Sam was kind of my tutor, and I kind of looked upon him as being the guy I wanted to be.
Sam Phillips came out of there. I mean, didn't he invent rock and roll or something?
My dad, Sam Phillips, was the first to record Elvis.
Jerry Phillips is one of my favorite cats down there. He met him early on in the process, and he embraced me and Steven so warmly, gave us some great moral support, and I just always loved Jerry Phillips.
I felt a certain spirituality about the black man's music, and hearing it in the cotton fields, that made one hell of an impression on me.
Mr. Phillips heard people singing in fields and heard trains.
Love that shot.
Through and the river.
It was raining off and on that day. It was so, we got a lot of good shots right there, right on the center of this train track.
Rhythm that gets in there.
Kept thinking they were going to call the cops on us because we were like 2 feet off the tracks. We got so many good shots from that one little spot.
Helen Keller was from Muscle Shoals. And it was just always amazing to me the things she was able to accomplish being blind and deaf.
Helen Keller was deaf, completely mute, completely blind, and her only way of communicating with the world is with gestures. You can still go to her house and see the...
So one of the things that was so fascinating for us about this story is that this town, you know, just seemed to emanate, this place rather, because before it was even a town, it was emanating music. And we point this out in the film, you know, it crosses genres of music, it crosses cultures, it crosses decades, it crosses centuries. And, you know, obviously even all the way back to the Native Americans who lived there, this was like this musical place. And so I found it very striking in that Helen Keller was also from there, for the sense that she's a symbol of you know, silence and darkness, the antithesis of music, if you will. And so that you had both these extremes, you know, you had music and you had this silent world, both emanating from this little place. I found that fascinating. I love that sign, that patina RC sign. I used to love RC Cola too. It's prevalent in the South.
People ask me always, what is the Muscle Shoals sound?
You had a lot of black musicians playing with a lot of white musicians, and we all got a different way of playing, but it blends so well together.
There was this coming together of styles.
And there's some hillbilly background there. There's some black music. We were open-minded to be any genre.
Love that wide shot. I love this shot. Love all these shots. I'm standing behind the tree right there. This guy sold a flea market type thing.
Very heavy bass and drum featured in the sound. It's just that.
These are all neighbors. They all live on that street there. We were just driving around.
Turn up the drums.
This was, at the time, cutting-edge technology. The fact that a drum kit could be close mic'd meant that they could turn up the bass drum. That's what created that blacker sound, that African sound, that allowed you to be sweet on the topsoil, but knowing that deep down in the ground there was some fierceness.
It's a Dream Chaser shot. That's a Tony shot. We're just holding the camera out the car there, driving by. These were sequences in the film, probably my favorite scenes in filmmaking in the film.
My mother was washing clothes out in the yard with a wash pot.
For me, our hands were really untied when it came to these scenes to be able to tell these stories. We had a lot more latitude to get creative, to be able to relay these stories.
My brother ran backwards and fell into the pot of scalding water. So my mother took him in her arms and went screaming across the field.
Powerful stories, and I wanted the
he came running, and they took him to
filmmaking to do him justice.
Red Bay, Alabama. And they took his clothes off, and all of his skin came off inside of his clothes. He died 3 days later. that was the start of the decline between my father's and my mother's relationship.
We shot this in my hotel room.
Kind of
We were
blamed
rained
her
out, and we were.
for the accident, and she probably blamed him for not being at home.
I thought, what could we do here in this hotel
She
room to
left us and said, "I'll never live with you again." And
use our time
forget
to
about
get
it.
some shots?
She moved in with Aunt S, who ran a red light district. So my father asked people what she was doing up here.
I love that frame on Rick. It's very powerful.
They said, "Well, Herman, you know what the other girls are doing?" And he said, "Yes, I do."
There's Joel Hood
And they
on
said,
camera there.
Dolly's doing the same thing. It was earth-shattering for me. Even after all these years and being away from her and not spending much time with her.
Those
in my
cattle
life,
love Rick. They know Rick.
Not a day goes by that I don't really miss my mother.
That's obvious on Rick's ranch as well. Here we are at Fame. Rick was working with Candy Staten, cutting some tracks. That's me on camera there.
Okay, all right, hold on. There's too much happening.
Rick was like a different person when he was working in the studio. I barely said anything to him for those 2 days. I just moved around silently and stayed out of his way.
To cut a record, produce a record, and get a budget to do it with, and you don't have a hit, you will never get another call. So I was always aware of that. I always felt that every record, my life depended on it. Time is like time. It's like you're whispering that part.
All right, y'all can always do mine over.
I know we can, honey, but I like to do it this way.
All right, Rick is so meticulous. Oh, it's just a joy.
There's Daniel Beard in the background there with the glasses.
Because he won't stop until he gets what he wants. If it takes 3 days on one song, Rick's gonna get what he wants.
We're doing just what we just got through doing. We're doing the same
That's
thing
John
over
behind
again,
Rick, who works in the studio there.
and I just want to perfect it a little better. We've changed a couple of things, so you gotta listen.
Rick was a very
There's Larry Byram
demanding
on guitar there.
boss. He would take
Played with Steppenwolf.
1,000 takes of something till he was satisfied, and sometimes he would not know what he was looking for, but he would keep working until he got it.
I'm talking about it's too bright.
Oh, okay, I thought you wanted it too bright.
Well, I did want it bright until I heard it now. When you hear it with a track, it's a whole different thing. I mean, you gotta listen to it in perspective.
That was very frustrating and hard on the musicians because you think, well, I already did that.
Nobody ever worked in the music business without getting their ass kicked. If they did, they're on the street somewhere pushing a wheelbarrow of concrete.
He was kind of like a taskmaster. And I don't fault him for that because he...
If you notice, it says Hall Safe and Lock Company. It's a safe door, happens to say, and has a picture of a river on it behind them. Pretty funny. Someone asked me, screening, was a picture of Rick as she sang It Ain't Easy Love intentional? And I said, yes, it was.
Dwayne Allman, of course, came into Muscle Shoals and wanted a gig, so he put up his pup tent on my parking lot at the studio, and finally, I gave him his shot.
When Dwayne showed up, he was probably one of the first guys with long hair and kind of the hippie look, but what really made him stand out was he was a wonderful guitar player.
I love that in a bunch of these photos, Dwayne's wearing the same shirt.
I had never heard a
Looks like he borrowed it from someone. Looks a little big for him.
Dwayne Allman could play.
Dwayne had been in Los Angeles, had a group called the Hourglass with his brother Greg.
They signed us on this big contract.
Greg's been so cool and supportive of this project.
The first year we were there, we played like
Man, he's such a solid dude. He came out to support the film and came out to London. He came up to New York. just to
You left. I talked to him.
just donate his time to come out and play, man. It's so cool.
Finally went out there and I said, listen, we go from the barn.
Yeah, his help has been just
across paved road.
very cool and very helpful. Really went out of his way, bunch. Came out and performed for us for free a few times, just to support the movie and the guys at Muscle Shoals and his brother. So cool of him.
And he wouldn't let me in his house for about 6 weeks, and I mean that was terrible because I mean, you know, growing up without a father, he was somewhat of a father figure to me, even though he was only a year and 18 days older.
This was also my hotel room, but a much smaller room, so we had to get creative. We had some technical problems this day when we were filming Greg, but this is in like a Holiday Inn. That's in my hotel room, very small. Moved everything out of there. It's in Huntsville, Alabama, where the Allman Brothers were playing. We actually got to go to the show after filming this. He was on his way to perform, and we got to go hang out backstage and listen to the show. It was awesome. We missed the first set, but caught the second set. Great. I'll never forget that day in my life. Amazing day.
My phone rings and it's him. He says, "Get over here, Babe Ruth, quick." And Babe Ruth, he called me that baby brother. Very endearing handle he had for me. He said, "Man, check this out." He'd been listening to Jesse Ed Davis play Taj Mahal. He was playing slide. He said, "Man, I dumped out all them pills and I washed
Matt
them
Walker shot this.
bottle."
Our co-producer. It's his guitar.
He's going, you know, and he's just
And I think I picked that guitar out for him, if I'm correct, if that's the guitar I'm thinking of. Gibson Jumbo.
I've still got that bottle, by the way, somehow.
When Dwayne came here, he was on the Wilson Pickett
I want that
session
guitar
we
strap
did.
Dwayne has there.
There was always a slight problem when we would go out, all of us white boys with a black artist, that we'd get looks, okay? But there was nothing as bad as going out with a long-haired hippie with us white boys. They couldn't stand that, right? And so both of them stayed back.
So they went on lunch break, and my brother went up to Wilson. And he said,
That's another thing I've noticed, a little trend in Muscle Shoals. The lunch break seemed to be a prolific time in the studio. A lot of stuff happened on the lunch break in Muscle Shoals.
My songs. Pickett and I in unison both said, "Look, are you crazy? We're going to cover the Beatles?" And of course, Dwayne said, "Exactly."
The lunch break comes into play on Freebird, too, and Leonard Skinner's sort of, their trajectory as a band was predicated on the lunch break, as we'll get to later in the movie.
Just an unbelievable group.
He used to say Wilson used to just swallow the mic a lot. When he'd sing, he'd just swallow that thing.
Dwayne Allman was playing such great guitar fills that something happened in that van. And all of a sudden, there was Southern rock.
It's interesting to see Dwayne playing a Strat. Never think of him with a Strat.
That was the beginnings of the Allman Brother Band.
Double coil pickup man is what I always think of when I think of Dwayne Allman.
the two of them got together.
When I met Dwayne, he had a cabin. He lived down on the river, Muscle Shoals. And it was like...
They're sun tanning.
It was a nice place down there.
In his spare time, he'd do a lot of fishing. Muscle Shoals seemed to be the place for him to be at that time.
He would do sessions. I would sit over there and practice. When he would get through the session, he'd roll his amplifier over there, and the two of us would play. And then when Barry Oakley came down, boy, the three of us, I had never played music like that.
Love seeing these pictures of them at Fame. You see Barry Oakley in the background there, Dwayne, J-Mo. It's very cool to see those photos of them at Fame.
Dwayne said, well, Rick, this is the kind of music that's coming in. It's going to be big again. The kids are really liking this stuff. And I said, yeah. Don't breathe on me, Dwayne. Back off.
Classic Rick. Cracks me up.
I never believed him, and I told Phil Walden, I don't understand this. They're sleeping in the studio all day under quilts and things. And I wake up Dwayne, and he says, man, you know, the stars and the moon are not quite lined up right. I'm not into all that. He said, well, hang in there, man. Turn on the machines and let them run. And eventually you're going to make $1 billion. I said, I can't do that. It's not me. So I missed the vote on that one.
Oh, where the light dims on that.
Time, old time. Things changes, you know. I'll never forget when Jimi Hendrix played behind me on Broadway. He was playing the band with King Curtis, and I told King, I think I'm gonna steal that guitar player you got. He said, Percy Slade, that guy there's gonna be so big in the next year or two, so I can't keep him and you won't be able to keep him either. When Jimmy came out with his style of music,
Finding those pictures was so cool.
our style of music kind of slapped.
That's when we tracked down that artist, Popsy, and he had those photos, man. Those photos were, I don't think they were too well known, and they were such great photos. We raced to get that sunset. We were done it. We'd finished like a 12-hour day, pulled into the parking lot of the hotel, and I looked across the sky, and I saw that sky. And I just quickly looked for whoever was around me, and with a camera, and Joel Hood had pulled in next to me, and he had his camera, and I was like, we got to get that. Are you up for it? Because, you know, technically our day was over, and but he was up for it, and so we just raced out. We had someone drive us, and we hopped on this bridge. They just pulled. There's no shoulder on the bridge, and they just pulled over, and we just hopped out of the car on the bridge, and had the tripod and the camera. We just set up and got that sunset, and so great. I knew it was going to make it in the movie when we got it, and it was just such a cool sunset, and made it in, of course.
Up the stairs we go, knock on the door, everybody's quiet.
I began to tell them of this great new deal we'd made with Capitol.
I'm looking at them like, come on, guys, help me. And they're just like.
One of the guys stopped me and said, we've already made a deal with Jerry Wexler, and he is going to build us a studio across town. We'll be leaving here, going with him.
And when Roger dropped that bomb in that office, we were expecting a huge explosion.
Such an interesting looking building. It's a little haunting.
It's like we have thrown shit on his dreams.
Do you remember what he said?
He said, you're never going to make it.
It was war. Total war.
We were just sitting for a shot, and the truck happened to go by.
When we
It's cool, though. I
bought
love
the
it.
studio, we were very nervous about whether or not we would have any hits, and you have to have hits to keep recording.
Jerry came to record at our place, and he brought Sherry in, and that was our first client. Nothing happened. It wasn't any good.
6 months went by, 7 months, almost 8 months.
I think we would have killed for the hit record.
We always wanted to own a studio, and it was like, what the hell have we done? And then all of a sudden, the English rock and roll guys started wanting to come to Muscle Shoals.
When we went to record in Muscle Shoals, it was a really lightning busy. You know, we just went in there, set up, and, you know, played our stuff for a couple of days.
The sound was in my head before I even got there. And then, of course, when that actually lives up to it and beyond, you know, then, you know, you're in rock and roll heaven, man.
So this is all shot in Muscle Shoals by Albert and David Maysles, two infamous documentarians who were following around the Stones, making a documentary about them that later became Gimme Shelter. And this is all in Muscle Shoals.
The first tune we did was a blues tune, You Got to Move.
We're down in Alabama, we're down in Muscle Shoals. We've got to cut some Fred McDowell stuff. If ever I'm going to do it, it's got to be here, you know. And it's probably soaking up the little Indian maiden too, you know. We don't come from here, but we know quite a bit about the Deep South, you know, from here.
Their producer did not show, and it wound up I became the engineer, and I was thinking, oh man, can you believe this, you know?
Because when they're coming out, you'll stop.
I want that ashtray there on that
But I
camera.
must point something out here, that nobody was drinking and nobody was drugging.
Well,
You got to move.
I think we were drinking quite a lot. I'm sure there were lots of drinking and smoking marijuana and so on.
Well, you know, I mean, it depends on the scale of what, you know, but...
That was recording in those days. That was
Keith
part
puts
of
it into perspective.
Otherwise, it was a lot of serious work as well. And once we knew the room was tuned to us and we would tune to the room, then it became like, right, let's get as much down to here as we possibly can, you know.
Keith had this tune, Wild Horses, but I don't think that was really finished. He had a chorus.
I love that shot. I listen about that couch on the wood floor, and this, I just love that.
And it had to go to the bathroom for a little while, just to sort of figure it out. And then say, okay, I'm ready, back in, and then take, you know.
Muscle Shoals Studio was in this rather interesting place. Being there does inspire you to do it slightly differently. Wild Horses is a sort of country song. And I remember we used Jim Dickinson. He played tack piano.
Jim Dickinson also passed while we were making the movie. We had reached out to him and actually talked to him, and then he had passed. It's Luther and Cody Dickinson's father for the North Mississippi All-Stars. He was, I believe he was living a little bit south of Muscle Shoals at the time he passed, in Mississippi, I believe. Muscle Shoals is close to the Mississippi border.
I thought it was one of the easiest and rockinest sessions that we'd ever done. I don't think we've been quite so prolific ever. I mean, we cut 3-4 tracks in 2 days, and that for the Stones is going something.
Keith gave such a great interview, so engaged.
We left on a high with Brown Sugar, man. You know, I mean, we knew we had, you know, one of the best things we'd ever done.
The thing about Brown Sugar had this sound. It was quite distorted. It was pretty funky.
My
you know,
buddy
that was
Steve
the whole idea of it.
did the interviews, and he's so likable.
I always wanted to go back there and cut
He's
more,
such a good
you know,
guy, and he's so likable that
so we ended up in France in a basement.
you just like talking to the
Exile on
guy.
Main Street there, but otherwise Exile would have probably been cut in Muscle Shoals. And that politically it wasn't possible. It wasn't allowed in the country.
I always say he's the nicest guy I know, Steve.
You know.
I don't know how he's so nice. I don't understand.
Those sessions were as vital to me as any I'd ever done. I mean, obviously, other stuff, the Beggar's Banquet and other stuff we did. Gimme Shoulder, was a Street Fighting Man, and Jumping Jack.
So interesting to think if they had gone back to Muscle Shoals,
I've
and
always wondered
it's funny how things
that if we'd have cut with
evolve.
Muscle Shoals, if
What
they
they,
might
what,
not have been
how
a
things
bit
could have.
more
You could take a left here, right there. What would have happened if you had taken the right instead of the left? But as Keith points out, his options are limited. Helicopters scare me. I don't want to be in. You have a problem in that. You don't have a lot of time to fix
got
it.
This great new deal with Capitol Records, but I've had this feud with Wexler, and he's taking my musicians and going across town and going to put me out of businesses. So he says,
I imagine Rick was pissed. I got this deal. Now I don't have a rhythm section.
That was up in Nashville.
but if
That's a
Jerry
cool
thinks
staircase.
These are the only guys left in
Also
the
a
world
little
to
haunting.
cut records on, and he's mistaken, because I believe that I could cut hit records with any group of musicians.
Clayton was the piano player for Rick's third band, as I
Put
mentioned.
him under contract.
So that's why he calls me, get me up there real quick. And he said, you know,
Clayton
bass
looked a
player,
little
I
different
don't
back
play.
then.
So I started playing, and he said, do you know of any other rhythm guys? I said, yeah, Freeman Brown, who became one of the best fatback drummers for Muscle Shoals. He said, and I also need a horn section. And I said, yeah, there's some guys that I met out of Nashville.
Rick Hall wanted to put a band together and call it the Fame Gang, and I ended up being part of that.
For me to surround myself with the strongest people I could made me a better producer.
Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to let him play back the tape 4 or 5 times in succession. I'm going to work with the horns.
It was great to see Rick working in the studio back then and now, producing. It's pretty cool.
And take a work away from the lyrics so that it sounds like a dance record.
The truth is, after Barry Beckett and Jimmy Johnson, Roger Hawkins, David Hood left and bought their own studio, we come in here with this new rhythm section, who was not really a studio band yet, but 1971, Rick Hall's producer of the year. He didn't have that with the other guys.
I started over again, and I believed I was as good as anybody.
Here's Candace Dayton to sing her big hit on Fame.
At Fame, we experienced a lot of great artists, starting with Candace Dayton.
Ready, Mama?
We started to explode. The world was coming to Muscle Shoals.
You may think I'm silly to love a man twice my age, but I know from experience, girls, sometime it pays.
I did Bobby Gentry for Capitol Records. I did King Curtis. I did
Rick
Blue
was very
Rawls.
fond of Bobby Gentry.
Little Richard, Willie
and the music
Hightower,
they cut
Mac
together.
Davis, Joe Tex.
And we cut all those records on Donny Osmond, the Osmond Brothers in 1971. I think they sold something in the neighborhood of 23 million records that 1 year.
Joe Simon, the group Alabama, Paul Anka, and Tom Jones.
Clarence Carter, Wilson Pickett, Bobby Womack.
I had one of the biggest record companies in the world behind me. I was getting twice the royalty rate that I was getting from...
Those are some
Brian
comfortable looking
Shea.
seats right there.
So I was shitting in high cut.
So people ask me with that photo, Rick
We were
ended up
forming
remarrying
a production company in about 69.
to Linda Hall, who is still his wife today.
And our friend
And
Alan Walden found this
she's a
band
great
that
woman,
actually
and
did
they had 3 boys.
I was a sucker to want to cut that band immediately. So we signed them.
When I first joined Leonard Skinner, Ronnie had always talked about the guys in Muscle Shoals. Apparently,
We filmed
they
Ed
had
up in
gone and
Nashville.
recorded an entire
I think he lives
album
outside of
with Jimmy
Nashville, I
Johnson
believe.
Producing.
They had no money.
He was great.
And I remember they would come up here and they'd check in a truck stop where they'd get in fights with the truckers because they're long hair. And basically all they had to eat was peanut butter sandwiches the whole time. But I love this band. I didn't know if it'd be a hit, but I'll tell you one thing, if you listen to those songs, some of the best rock and roll songs I've ever heard, especially one.
Another lunch break story.
At the time, we were cutting Freebird. We took a little lunch break. We walk in, and the engineer had started playing the tape. Billy Powell, who's the roadie he was sitting in there playing this concert.
I love the
piano
fact this
that was
guy's a
so
roadie, but he's
unbelievable that we walked in
classically trained pianist, and yet he's too embarrassed to tell anyone. They probably think he was soft or something, and he's the roadie. I just love that. And then he ends up becoming the piano player for the band. That's pretty cool stuff.
Became a band member within a few months. He was concert pianist, and nobody knew it, not anybody. I think he
Really did add a lot to that band. I mean, you think of Skinner, you definitely think of the grand piano. You think of piano. I mean, you think of a lot of things, but that's an integral part of their sound.
But there was something different about this band. I mean, on this album, I had a 9-minute single, and I'm going to go and try to sell it to a record company that's never had a single over 3.5 minutes. I mean, I got problems.
Ronnie Van Zant, so many great stories about him I heard. Very passionate, very serious about his music, very passionate. What a singer.
And I knew that if I did that, I'd destroy the integrity of the band. I said, go listen to them live, and then you'll know what to do.
Look at all that duct tape on there.
Not one A&R department would go listen to them. So, it wound up, I lost the band.
Ronnie's got a
Here
great
I have
voice.
all these great cuts. I cut the first Freebird, Simple Man. I mean, all this stuff, you know? And I wasted almost 2 years of my life. And it's very depressing for me. And I'm sure it was for them.
I think it was really hard on Jimmy when he lost Skinner. I think he really cared about them, and he really tried to protect them as a band, and he did. And I think it was really hard when he lost them.
That guy Alan Walden that I talked to you about had got him on a Who tour, world tour with the Who. When they came off of that Who tour, they were a hit band.
This is in Oakland, I believe. We'll have some characters in the crowd. I love this. These girls are into it.
And then the crash happened. And Gary and Alan got well enough from the crash. They come to me.
I believe some of those injuries in the plane crash came from stuff on the plane that wasn't tied down and secured. So when the plane crashed, that stuff went flying through the cabin. That's a beautiful shot there. Tony is standing in the bucket of the tractor right now. Great shot. Beautiful clouds, beautiful sky that day.
He cooked the meals, he got us off to school. I spent hours and hours in the woods with him cutting timber. He preached to me constantly. You got to be the best at whatever you do, and
Love that shot.
Good enough. You've got to be the best in the world, not just the best in this county. He had worked hard, and I'd worked hard with him all of our lives. And so I wanted to do something to make life easier for him. So I bought him a John Deere tractor. He'd always wanted a tractor. We never could afford a tractor.
That's such a cool shot, the light on that post there.
During this time, my dad was plying on the little tractor about a quarter of a mile from our house. My stepmother went out to look for my
I don't know
father,
how Rick
and
overcame
she saw the
one
tractor
of these
wheels
stories,
turned up
much
in the
less
air,
all these stories.
and she knew something bad had happened.
They're not
He was
stories, but
pinned
they're
on the
events
tractor.
in his life.
He had tried to get away and had pawed in the ground, trying to free himself. Of course, after his death, I went into a deep stupor. I mean, it's just overwhelming.
I was playing in Texas, and Rick Hall called me and told me he had a song he wanted me to come up there and do. I was born and raised down in Alabama on a farm way back up in
Twinsies.
I was so ragged that folks
They're the same tailor, apparently.
Papa used to tease me about it. Of course, deep down inside, he was hurt because he'd done all he could.
I like those shirts, though, man. Those things are slick.
We going the wrong direction.
He didn't like the song because he thought it was a
I'm not so
downer
sure
for
about the
his
ascot,
people,
though.
black people.
My papa was a great old man.
My papa was a great old man. I can see him with the shovel in his hand. Education he never had, but he did wonders when times got bad. And it was my story about me and my father.
I love how he's silhouetted there. I remember Joel and Tony were getting these shots to hang on the tractor. It was a little sketchy because they're in front of that rear tire. If they were to slip off there, it would not be good. And they're holding on. They're holding the camera in one hand, holding on to the tractor. Meanwhile, they're in front of that giant calcium-filled tire. That would not be good. Look at that shot, boy. That is so cool.
But maybe my son Rick can make it.
Oh, I love that too.
So I was so taken by the story that I wanted to do a special production on it with strings, and I wanted to go to LA and do it. And
I love the way Rick says that. I love all his intonations when he tells a story.
I was a believer in Rick Hall knowing what to do. And if he said that was a good song, okay, let's sing the song. When it came out, it was gone up the charts in a hurry.
That was a #1 record.
Spooner Oldham on the Wurlitzer, laying down the moods for us.
Come to get away from it all. They can rest, stay away from the telephone, hustle and bustle, and people bugging them regarding autographs or what have you. And nobody knows them here, in other words.
People like to go to places that had a kind of magical kind of vibe about them, but they also like to get out of New York, or out of LA, or out of London sometimes to do these sessions.
I mean, that was really the first of its kind that attracted music people from all over the world. Sure, people go to New York to record. You know, big deal. You know, go to Muscle Shoals.
I love that line by Ed.
And really experience the Southern way of life. I mean, there's nothing like it.
That's Jeremy, our PA, sitting there getting his hair cut.
Record for me was more like going to my village.
He lives down there and was our PA for all our shoots.
I did actually.
Great job, hard worker.
Sitting here in limbo, but I know it won't be long.
Jimmy had a very definite Jamaican songwriting style, and this was pre-Bob Marley, so nobody was really hip to the Jamaican sound that much.
Here I am, going there with a different brand of feeling. They were readily adaptable to it.
When an artist would come in, what our job was to us is to become their band.
So
They were
true.
able to change who they were depending on the artist that walked in the door.
It's so true. That's why they play on so many different genres of music. And they did such a good job at it.
This little boy is moving on.
The song Sitting in Limbo was such a fresh piece of music that you couldn't help but notice it.
Sitting in limbo.
And so definitely the Swampers, all white guys, played their role in bringing reggae to the forefront of the public.
Sitting in limbo, limbo, limbo.
It was after those sessions that Chris Blackwell
That's the Swampers with Chris Blackwell
linked them up with Steve Winwood.
from Island
When we
Records.
were going through our formative years, I started hearing this Southern soul music. And of course, I didn't really
This was this shot. I went back and forth on framing this. It was a departure, sort of showing, you know, the real world out there like that with the traffic. And so, yeah, it was a tough call because I liked the idea in the beginning because of traffic, but it was a departure from sort of continuity and how I framed other stuff. So I never was quite sure how I felt, but it was a play on Steve Winwood being in Traffic, if you didn't pick that up.
Of course, Traffic weren't a mainstream band at all. We would try and take elements of rock, jazz, folk music, all sorts of different ethnic music. Our own particular name for it was Headless Horseman music.
I love that Headless Horseman music. It seems very apropos for their sound.
Recording the way that we were used to. At that time, I was trying to be real precise. Traffic was the exact opposite. It sounds terrible, let's play it anyway. It might not ever sound good, but let's play it.
So true. I mean, it's really so true. When you think of Traffic and their sound, and then you think about what these guys had done, it was a 180-degree departure for them. So kudos to them for playing a completely different approach and style of music and adapting to it well. That's really understating the film, but very cool, and just shows their range and their just the range of all the different genres of music they played on.
Elements that we could never have reached.
And then Chris Blackwell says, well, we'd like for you guys to go on the road with us. And so we go out and play with Traffic at these big venues and 20,000 people.
We were just thrilled that they agreed, but of course they'd actually never been on the road with anyone. There were
And Barry and Jimmy.
when Jim
I love that
and
shot
I
of
and
David.
Chris
It's
would get
hilarious.
together and sort of worry, say, are we corrupting these guys' minds, and that their music possibly came out of some sort of innocence? We suffered a certain amount of guilt for that.
I think that's true. I think the music did come out of some sort of innocence.
Musicians are pretty noted for the gypsy life, moving around and playing different venue every night, but we really liked our family life.
When I first started in music, I've had visions of New York and Los Angeles and travel different places, and the more I've done that, the more I've realized that this is the best place. It is my home, and I love it here. We had many opportunities to move our operation. We thought people would come to us. Why would we have to go to them when they'll come to us?
There's a beautiful railroad bridge that's now... The train track was above there, and then you can walk underneath there. Now it's just a walking bridge. It's a beautiful piece of architecture, and people run on it and walk on it, and you get out over the river. It's really cool.
Working with Bob Seger was just magnificent. It really was. He was the kind of guy that he had no ego. And Main Street's one of my really favorite cuts. Seger really put his heart in that one. Most of the people in Detroit and the Muscle Shoals people thought they were talking about the main street of their town. We had a 10-year run with him that we were at least doing half the album each time he put out an album.
I like how they have their backstage passes on their knees. Love these shots.
The studio just started taking a life of its own. Stars fell on Alabama, and everybody who was anybody.
Donna Jean has moved back to Muscle Shoals, and that's where she's living now. She had been out in the Bay Area.
When we really got moving in the 70s, we were doing like 50 albums a year.
It was one of the best rooms I've ever worked in. The sound was like the perfect sound. It was the sound that you'd be going for.
See that picture of Dylan there? He had recorded 2 albums down there. Slow Train coming and saved.
Everybody wanted to record.
Believe it or not, Slow Train Coming was his first Grammy. I don't know how that could be, but because I mean he had, by that point had written a massive arsenal of music that'll be listened to for the next thousands of years.
Joe Cocker, I mean, I can just name you a list.
Johnny Taylor,
Glenn Fry,
Leon Russell, Willie Nelson, Levon Helm,
Donnie Fritz,
Carlos Santana, John
Donnie lives down in Muscle Shoals.
R.B. Grieg,
Still.
J.J. Cale, Dire Straits, Simon and Garfunkel. Still amazes me today that all that music was played by us guys. A lot of the music was hits.
You look back and you see the discography, we're as amazed as anybody.
The guys there are standing in Cypress Moon Studios, which they moved to after they moved out of 3614 Jackson Highway. They bought another studio and moved over there, right on the river. When I had the idea for this scene, Rick thought it was crazy, he didn't understand, but he liked it. He's like, I like this idea. I don't understand it, but I like it. I thought this scene was very compelling and appropriate for Rick's story on a number of levels. Oh boy, so many levels.
My whole life has been based on a lot of it rejection. And to be honest with you, I think rejection
Built the fire out at his ranch.
role in my life because I thrived on it. I wanted to prove the world was wrong, and I was right. I was rejected by my mother.
Love that shot.
I was rejected by schoolmates.
There's a full moon
because I was poverty
at night.
stricken. As I grew older, I was rejected by Atlantic Records with Jerry Wexler.
It had been a long day. We shot for hours.
I've never been more angry than I was at Jerry Wexler and the Swampers who left me at that time. It was bitter. But that all passes with time.
I love that shot.
Those things change.
Having a good ending was important, I thought. I mean, it's important usually to have a good ending, but I just really felt like, wanted us to finish strong with a good ending to the film, and was very happy with how it came out.
We all got our start working with Rick Hall. Rick is really the founder of the music business in Muscle Shoals.
These are guys that I love with all my heart, and we had worked together for years, who wanted, like I did, to become...
I love this 8mm. This 8mm footage that Fame had. They'd shot it and they had kept it. Very cool. It's Otis Redding right there in the white shirt.
Because they've played on so many of these wonderful hit records, they will take their place in the history of American music.
That's the great thing about recording. From there on, you're immortal, because it's in the grooves, right?
Everything that everybody's done here, it came from their heart. And that's what makes Muscle Shoals so powerful.
What music built there is not something that you can see with your eye. In fact, if you look at the recording studios, they were humble shells. But what they contained was an empire that crossed race and creed, ethnicity. It was revolutionary.
I'm honored to step in the place of people who I wish I could have met. You know, there's still a piece of Eddie here.
All the old tapes from Fame they still have.
Everybody who walked through these doors.
There's a perfect storm here. Everybody needs to know all the different nuances.
It was raining here. I was holding an umbrella over the camera so we could not get no raindrops on the shot.
Exploding the way it did.
John Paul lives in Muscle Shoals. He's from there.
Proud to be from this area and to see everything that is to come out of this incredible
Oh, their
singing
hair and
river.
so cool.
I am honored.
So this is a song that Bob Dylan wrote and recorded in Muscle Shoals, and I was coming home from the first shoot and was listening to this song, his version on my headphones on the airplane, and I started getting really emotional. I got very emotional, and I just thought this would be a great song for the end of the movie, and I knew that I wanted to have everyone come together. You know, I knew, there had been all this conflict and, the whole story between the guys, and so I just, when I was listening to the songs, like, this would be a great song to have them all come together and perform, and started to think, well, who would be a great singer? I was thinking a female singer, and Steve and I were bouncing ideas, and Leisha's. It just seemed like the perfect person to sing the song, and now, so 3 years later, it came to fruition. It was pretty cool that it all came together. It was a crazy day when we were recording this. Everything that could have gone wrong was going wrong. It was just, Mercury was in retrograde times 10. Tornadoes hitting Alabama. Alicia's child was very sick and almost couldn't make it. Our main camera, we had one very nice camera, red camera. It went down the minute she finally did walk into the studio. One of our other cameras went down. We had people walking through shots. It was, my headphones fell apart and was dangling. I had one of the cans of my headphones dangling from my head for the second half of the day, and I was beyond even trying to fix it at that point. It was like, it was just, the universe was too much. I couldn't keep up. And I was sure when the day was over that it was screwed, that we were screwed, that we did not get this song. I was sure of it, that there was just so many problems. I thought we didn't get it, and I was depressed. And then, as soon as we got back to Colorado, we started piecing it together, and it looked like it was going to be salvaged, and I couldn't believe it, because I thought, there's just going to be something wrong. There's going to be, anything of a multitude of issues. But came out pretty damn well. Raji Manicorn. She was our line producer most of the shoots. Got her Sacagawea, showing us the way.
Ronnie had always talked about the guys in Muscle Shoals.
She was
Sweet Home, Alabama.
she was an integral part of the team.
Muscle Shoals has got the Swampers. And when Ronnie, what is that, Swampers? He goes, oh, that's Jimmy and Roger and the guys in Muscle Shoals.
Now Muscle Shoals has got the Swampers.
Yeah, she and Matt Walker both were line producers on the film, and
Denny Cordell, who
it was great working with those two.
Leon Russell. I think he just thought it sounded good, because Muscle Shoals has a lot of water here. You got to have a name. Swampers is a good nickname.
And my brother Steve-O.
There's 2 guitar solos in that song. One short.
That's about all she wrote, folks. I hope you got something out of it. Hope I didn't bore you to death. And I hope you enjoyed the film as much as we enjoyed making it. Peace, and see you down the road.
When you hear musicians, 5 or 6 of them in the room, and you hear the imperfections, that's the human element. If a guy falls off of the stool who's playing the drums, I really don't give a shit, as long as he don't miss a beat. He can get back up and climb back up, and most people, including myself, think that's great. That's the human element. There's faults. So the imperfections gives it the human element, which I believe is what we need today more of. And that's how you make magic and great records. Amen. That's my sermon for the day, by the way.